Restructuring and the future of UNO. As we know, every international organization needs reform to adjust to the changing times. UNO is no exception. United Nations also requires reforms and restructuring. United Nations was formed almost 70 years ago on 24th October 1945. International politics has changed a lot since then. Hence, there are demands for restructuring this organization. Almost and every countries agree on the need of restructuring the UNO. Their opinions differ on the kind of reforms they want. UNO basically needs two types of reforms. For example, in terms of structures and processes, and in the second, we can say in terms of jurisdiction on the UNO. The member countries agree to the need of these kinds of reforms, but they are not clear on when and how these reforms will be carried out. Reform of structures and processes bring forth the need to reform Security Council also. Member countries are demanding the expansion of both temporary and permanent members of the Security Council, especially because there are no proper representation in the Security Council from Africa, Asia, and South America. There is a demand to include permanent members from these areas. Moreover, United States and other Western countries are demanding the expansion of the UN budget and administrative process as well. In the next, we can say, according to some countries and political analysts, the jurisdiction of the UN should be expanded. This will make UN more efficient. Some are of the view that UN should focus more on peace and security, but according to some other countries, the role of the UN should be confined to humanitarian issues like health, education, environment, population control, protection of human rights, gender, and social justice. Do you know UN was formed after the end of the Second World War 1945? It was meant to respond to the need of the international politics at that point of time. Its functions were also determined in accordance with the requirements of that time. But with changing time and the end of the Cold War, international politics have also changed to a great extent. Some important changes we can say right now, like decline of the superpower of USSR or Soviet Union, emergence of the United Nations or United States, especially as the sole powerful state superpower. Russia is recognized as the successor of the United Soviet Union, and cooperation established between Russia and United States. Emergence of China as a powerful nation is a very fast rate, and India also becoming powerful. India's economic growth increased in a very fast pace, and the East European socialist countries, which were earlier members of the Soviet Union, became independent and joined United Nations. Some new threats were faced by the entire world, and this created conflict and misunderstanding among the nations. These need or new types of threats are civil wars, ethnic conflicts, terrorism, rise of nuclear power, environmental challenge, yes, global warming, epidemics, etc., and etc. Hence, there is a need to reconstruct, restructure, and reform the United Nations to tackle the new problems and changes in international politics. Here, India's position in the reconstructed UNO is also visible. Even before India got independence from British imperialism, it became the member of United Nations when it was formed on 24th October 1945. India has been actively associated with the United Nations. Three Indian judges were appointed to the International Court of Justice. Mr. Pandit was the chairperson of the General Assembly in 1953, and the name of the person is Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit. She was the first woman chairperson of the General Assembly. So, moreover, she was also appointed as member of Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, etc. United Nations was formed around 70 years ago, and international politics has been changed to a great extent from then. Hence, to adjust with changing time, many countries have demanded the restructuring of the UN. India has extended full support to such demands. India supports the restructuring of the UN, like uh, for some reasons. In order to make UN more strong and effective, it must be restructured to adjust with changing times, to encourage development and cooperation with among the countries. UN must play a greater role, and for this also reconstruction is required. UN's main aim is to promote progress and development. To make it possible, peace and security must be established in the world. For this, UN should be reconstructed and restructured. A newly independent country should be actively involved in the UN. India focuses more on the reconstructing of the United Nations Security Council. From the very beginning, UN has not increased the number of the member of countries of the Security Council. On the other hand, the number of the members of the General Assembly has gone on increasing. Hence, India believes that the members of the Security Council should be increased proportionately with the members of the General Assembly. Then only Security Council can represent the nations, and the member states will be confident on it. It is to be mentioned here that in 1965 the number of non-permanent members of the Security Council was increased from 11 to 15, which was earlier very below, like 9, but the number of the permanent members has not been increased till then. While most of the members of the General Assembly are from developing countries, there is not even a single permanent member in Security Council from the developing countries. All are from the superpower like states. So India feels that the developing countries must also have a voice in the important decisions of the Security Council. According to India and some other countries, responsibility as well as the workload of Security Council has been increased a lot. Moreover, the number of member countries in organization from developing countries has also been increased. So the Security Council should try to have proper representation of the developing countries. Here, arguments in favor of the permanent seats of India in Security Council can be explained or mentioned, like India has been taking active part in developing developmental activities of the UN and has been contributing to its different functions. Demand for making India a permanent member in the Security Council is based on some criteria also. For example, India is the second most populous country in the world, so it should get permanent membership in Security Council. India is the largest democracy in the world. It is also a vital point. India has always played an important role in maintaining world peace. That is another important reason. India has always expressed its opinion in the floor of the UN in favor of disarmament, against apartheid or racial discrimination. This is also another important thing. India has become one of the major economic power in recent times, so it should get membership of permanent seat in United Nations Security Council. India has always contributed in every way to United Nations activities. On the basis of the above mentioned points, we can say that India decided to lobby for a permanent seat in the Security Council. India's inclusion will be a big achievement for the country. This will also increase India's importance in international politics and give the country some advantages in the spheres of the foreign policy. If we say about some countries which should not get the permanent membership, in some cases, India or example of India can be given, but it's a little bit different thing. Some countries have been opposing the demand of India for a permanent seat in the Security Council. Pakistan has opposed this demand strongly. The border dispute between India and Pakistan since the day of independence is the main reason behind this objection. Pakistan feels that if India becomes a permanent member of Security Council, then it will be empowered with veto power, and this will take the interests of the Pakistani. Moreover, many countries became suspicious of India after it acquired nuclear power. According to many political scientists, the continued conflicts between India and Pakistan will obstruct India's claim for a permanent seat in Security Council. Moreover, if India is given a permanent seat in the Security Council, then Brazil, Germany, Japan, and South Africa will also have to be given permanent seats. If the Security Council is restructured, then permanent membership must be given to countries of Africa and South Africa, as there is no permanent member from these two continents. Hence, we can say that it will not be easy for India to get permanent membership in South Security Council. Rise of the new international organizations is also important thing in this chapter. In order to adjust to the need of the contemporary times, new international organizations have been formed. Some of these organizations are associated with political, economic, and humanitarian issues. Apart from these, there are some non-governmental organizations or NGOs. Some of like some such of new international economic organizations, International Monetary Fund (IMF), World Trade Organization (WTO), and World Bank (IBRD). Moreover, some organizations which are being formed for safeguarding human rights are as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. These organizations are being discussed in various ways. In your syllabus, new international economic organizations mainly focused on International Monetary Fund, then that is IMF, World Trade Organization WTO, and World Bank, that is IBRD. So, both international organizations like monetary organizations like IMF and World Bank, especially born after the Bretton Woods Conference, 19, before 1945, and after that 1945, these system started to acquire position in the world economic sector and to give precious position. If we talk about International Monetary Fund, it is an international organization which was formed in 1945. Presently, it has more than 180 members. The headquarters of IMF is Washington, D.C., United States. The present managing director of IMF is working for the development of various sectors and to protect equal rights. The first 10 countries of its list have been power 55% of votes. 8 of these are members of G8. They like US, Japan, Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Canada, Russia. Among these countries, US alone has 17% of the votes. IMF ensures stability in case of currency exchange rates and helps the current country to utilize their resources. Moreover, IMF tries to eradicate the problems of foreign exchange and promotes development of international trade. World Trade Organizations can be cited like well, WTO is an international organization. It was formed in 1995. Before it was named as GATT, GATT. WTO was renamed as WTO. Before it was named as GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which was formed after the Second World War, like the IMF. Members state the headquarters is located in Geneva, Switzerland. The present director also taking care of the matter so that trade and exchange will be more flawless, and will be giving satisfactory trade and balance. All decisions of the WTO are taken anonymously, and but economically powerful countries like US, European Union, and Japan make rules and policies mainly to safeguard their self-interests. The developing countries have often complained because the activities of WTO are not very transparent. Moreover, the WTO is called mainly by few economic superpowers. It is actually managed. And finally, if we talk about World Bank, it was formed immediately after the end of the Second World War in 1945, and in 1947 it was linked with the United Nations. The function of this bank is to help the developing countries. The main activities of this bank are to work for human development, like education, health, agriculture, and rural development, like irrigation facilities, rural services, environment control, like formulating policies to bring down pollution, construction of the roads, and urbanization, improving the legal institutions, and taking steps against corruption. World Bank gives loan to countries so that they can restructure and develop their economies. The bank gives loan for capital intensive policies. It decides what kind of economic investments the borrowing countries should make. In this way, the World Bank controls the influences of the economy of developing countries. World Bank sometimes makes policies for the benefit of the least developed countries and is often criticized for doing so. In spite of these, it must admit that World Bank has been contributing a lot for the developing countries. Uh, it has presently more than 185 members, and the present president is also working for the developing countries and other systematic ways. Other non-governmental organizations which are very popular, like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, these are effectively working like what should I say, IMF or World Bank. So in the international model, they are trying to establish democracy. Democracy is a form of good governance by say stated by every state. So it will be more interested more interesting fact that every institution should be democratized so that equal proportional equality can be maintained, and permanent membership of the five members of the Security Council can be extended so that other deserving state can take it and make their decisions in the ground of the international matters. So, on the ground of international matters, every state should have the equal right to say. So, here comes the democratic position. So, good governance is possible through the democratic model, and United Nations should have uh, control and should have managed the policy of democratic model. So that's all for today's class. We will discuss other parts in the next classes. आज के छुट्टी